Today's Feast of the Visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary invites us to consider our relationship with the Mother of God, since it occurs on the last day of May, what poet Gerard Manley Hopkins calls Mary's Month. I confess I'd not spent much time reflecting on Mary, and maybe I'm not alone. I have long admired those who manifest a special love for her, but I had not been among them until recently. Why? I asked myself. I guess it's because she seemed remote, untouchable, in part thanks to her depiction in the visual arts over the centuries, which frequently show her removed from our humble humanity. A beautiful woman in swirling clouds, dressed in flowing blue robes, perfect white complexion surrounded by cherubs and saints, or holding the infant Jesus rapturously on her lap. On the other hand, when I got away from these images and spent more time with Mary in the Pietà, or with her at the foot of the cross, I became more at ease with a woman who knows our own humanity. Today's readings can help us better appreciate Mary's role in our salvation history and our own daily lives. The first from Zephaniah frames the second, Luke's story of Mary's visitation to her cousin Elizabeth. Both are redolent of joy and thanksgiving. The first reading sets the scene for the gospel, a paean of joy and praise from the book of Zephaniah. Shout for joy, O daughter Zion. Sing joyfully, O Israel. The Lord, your God, is in your midst, a mighty Savior. He will rejoice over you with gladness and renew you in his love. A wonderful prelude to our gospel of Mary's visit to Elizabeth. Using Ignatian imaginative prayer, we can enter the scene with Mary arriving at Elizabeth's, having learned from the angel Gabriel that her cousin is pregnant in her old age. Imagine, if you will, their joyful embrace, and listen to the conversation given us by Luke. Elizabeth greets Mary with the words, "Most blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." Then Mary responds, "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked with favor on his lowly servant." I used to like the old English translation, "My soul magnifies the Lord," Magnificat, because Mary does indeed, by her acceptance of God's invitation, make God's presence among us larger, if you will, more visible. By her assent and belief in God's promises, she captures some of the greatness of her and our Savior. We note that Mary quickly turns to praise of God, recognizing this is not first about her, but rather what God has done for and through her. Then her vision quickly expands to what God has done and is doing for all generations before and after her to the present day. He has mercy on those who fear him. Fear, that is, those who in all humility depend on God for all. That's us too, as we seek to follow and serve God. In every generation, that means us too, and all who come after us. He has lifted up the lowly. We too are lowly, perhaps not materially, but spiritually, recognizing that we are totally dependent on God's grace. He has remembered his promise of mercy, the promise he made to our fathers, to Abraham and his children forever. This promise fulfilled by the incarnation, God among us. We are folded into the long line of recipients of his promises, as children also of Abraham. Mary accepted God's choice of her to bear God's son. In Greek, Theotokos, God-bearer, believing that this would be accomplished. So might it be that we too are chosen, each as our own unique self, to bear God's love to others, and in that way to proclaim, to magnify God's presence to others? Gerard Manley Hopkins wrote a poem which captures, in some sense, Mary's gifts to us. Called The Blessed Virgin Mary Compared to the Air We Breathe, he sees Mary mediating the risen Christ to us, all around and always, even as the air we breathe surrounds us. May we, in contemplating this Lucan passage, appreciate more deeply Mary's gift to us in her belief and trust in the Lord. And may we, like her, fully rejoice in that. An invitation, perhaps, for us today to consider our own personal Magnificat.